Hello and welcome to another episode of Andy's Chomping at the Bit, brought to you by Big Andy Media, the official sponsor of today's Andy's Chomping at the Bit episode. Uh, so for today's topic, originally last week I was going to do compulsive behavior, and then I'd audibled it early in the week, this past week, and I was changing it to go on stigmas, stereotypes, and generalizations. That's actually going to be next week now. So this week I'm going to go on about shame. I realized I hadn't done one on shame. I talk about it frequently in the podcast, but I never actually did an episode on shame, uh, which is, let's see, what a shame, but it's not. It's unfortunate. That's much better. Anyway, what got me on the idea of doing the one on shame is, I like listening to audiobooks. And the current audiobook that I've been on for quite a while now is by a wonderful author and excellent researcher, Brene Brown. The book's called Dare to Leave, or Dare to Lead, not leave, lead. But it's very content rich and very thought provoking. So I can only usually listen to it for maybe 5-10 minutes at a time. And then I had to hit pause and really take the time to digest what I've heard. And the part I just recently listened to, she was talking about shame, and she brings up shame quite frequently. If you guys don't know who Brene Brown is, I highly recommend doing a Google search, a YouTube search. She has so much valuable information from her TED Talks to her books. And most of her talks are based around vulnerability. But she had mentioned shame in the most recent one, and she said something that really clicked with me. She said something that pieced together a little bit of the puzzle that I was slightly seeing it, but I wasn't quite understanding it. And she did a good job with helping me understand it. And that is what relates to shame, like the what's the polar opposite of shame? And that's hope. Surprisingly, as hard as it may be for some people to believe, hope and shame have opposite effects. Hope is a positive driving force. It encourages growth. When we are having hard times, it's what keeps us going on the right path. It encourages us to do the next right thing, which is something I try to focus on personally. Sometimes the next right thing is simply improving ourselves, improving our understanding of things. We can go on to that one a whole another time as well. But shame has the opposite effect. And the way she explained it, what really helped me, it clicked with me, is she was putting shame and guilt on a comparison. And I had never seen it this way. I always looked at them both one and the same, both toxic. Because typically when you feel guilt, or at least in my situation, typically when I felt guilt, shame was connected, or I would connect shame automatically to it. But the explanation was really good. If you do something and you feel guilty about what you just did, you go out of your way to change, or you might call yourself out on it because you know what you did was wrong, but you know you can improve. You know you can correct that problem, that behavior. It's not something that you're doomed to do. It was an accident. You know better, and you don't want it. You're making the effort to change that. Shame is a little bit different on that. Like I said, shame really falls as the opposite of hope. When you're ashamed of something, you still know what you did was wrong. You're still aware of the flaw in the decision, but you have that feeling that that's who you are, that's the best you can be. That's just part of your making. It's not necessarily as much of a choice in your mind as just the cards you were dealt. You hear this frequently, not just with people in addiction or early recovery. You hear it frequently with people who were incarcerated for a long time. There's the term institutionalized, which is a real thing. I'm telling you right now, it is a real thing. Living in that kind of life for a long period of time you see it from people in there, that it does change you. The longer you're there, the more it can impact your behavior when you get out. Uh, but when people make poor decisions after getting out, and someone tells them, hey, you can't act that way, and they fall back on the excuse, hey, I'm institutionalized. I was institutionalized. One, they're making an excuse and playing victim, but being more realistic, the shame factors there. They feel like that's forever how they have to be, how they forever will be, uh, and that's not realistic. You still have a choice to change. You still can get better, but shame isn't here. Shame doesn't help you improve. It doesn't help you change. It creates shackles and it ties you down, and it hinders growth. That's the reality of shame. um, and you can someone can be someone can do something wrong and they still can be punished. They can still face justice, and this is just one example of how shame ties in. Um, and they can still be held accountable for wrong actions without throwing shame as well. And a lot of countries around the world are really good at this. They're really good at discipline without the shaming. However, our country, my country, the United States of America, our society, our culture, our system, I'm going to put it mostly on our society and culture, because with the right modifications we can change our system as well, the way our whole structured justice system is. That is, we go with the intent of not teaching a lesson, not rehabilitating. A lot of our justice system is, you did this, now we're going to punish you for it, which is fine. But like I said, punishment's okay. But we are forever going to want you to be in a position. We want you to be casted. We want you to suffer indefinitely for that decision. And so it's no longer, well, you did this, so this is what you're going to have to do. Okay, it's, you did this, and we're going to make you suffer tenfold. Tough luck. And I know a lot of people that, well, they shouldn't have done that. You're right. Absolutely right. But, hear me out on this. If your goal is to make the world a safer place, if your goal is to help people learn from their mistakes, help people change after making those mistakes, and help them grow to be a productive member of society, which a lot of people still are. I'm fortunate that I have been able to have a lot of support in my life and guidance, and growth for that matter, to be where I'm at today. But if you really want people to rise up in the best possible way, slapping shame on them indefinitely does not help. It might make you feel good. It kind of gives you a feel of not justice but revenge, and that's really the difference here. There's a part of our society, and I won't lie, it's a pretty twisted part, and I am guilty of being right in the heat of this for a long part of my life. And there's parts of me that still try holding on to aspects of that are hard to let go of, hard to pull away from. But the reality is, it is just that. It's resentment and revenge. Those are the two things that push our system right now into that style is, and it, like I said, that's what the shame is. It's not about helping. It's usually we put shame on people, and I'm guilty of this too. We put shame on people when we're hurt. And when we're hurt, we instinctively try hurting the people that hurt us. It's like somewhat like a passive aggressive way of hitting back. And it doesn't make things better. It might make us feel a little bit better, but it doesn't make anything better. And sometimes it's not meant to hurt people. It's just meant to distract us from the pain we're feeling. It might be to try to lessen the pain that we're feeling, or justify the pain that we're feeling, regardless of the cause of shaming. And sometimes we think we're doing it because we're trying to help people. You know, we hear the saying tough love, and there's value to that. There is value to tough love to a point. But tough love with shame together with it, it's a great way to kill someone. If I'm being honest. And a lot of people don't understand that, I guess. A lot of people think that shame will help someone wake up. That shame will snap them out of their struggle and get them on track. A lot of people think that either you're enabling them or you have to do that. No, that's not true. You don't want to enable either. That's the other, as far as addiction, that you don't do that either. Shame doesn't work, though. I can comfortably say that. It doesn't work. As it relates to addiction, I know that a better approach, there's no set, successful way to help someone in the event of struggling with addiction. I know that shame is one of the biggest things that holds people down. One of the worst advice I ever got for addiction and recovery was actually the first time I went to treatment. It was I went to Traverse City, the addiction treatment services, which I heard is closed, which is really unfortunate because they do help a lot of people. They even helped me understand certain things, even though it took me multiple years before I really was able to capitalize on what I learned and utilize and build off of it. But anyway, one of the individuals that was working there, he he was talking to all of us, and he was trying to make a point, but he was talking about the seriousness of the disease and of relapsing, and he said, there's one thing I can guarantee you, is that now that you've been in here in treatment, when you leave, if you relapse, you will, since you know better, you will feel an unbelievable amount of shame for slipping up and screwing up and throwing yourself right back in there. He was right on that. But he didn't, I don't think that was the best thing to say to people in treatment, to say to people in general. Because a lot of that, you preach it, you can essentially make something like that come true. If people hear it enough, they start believing it, and that's just what happens. I'm not saying it's his fault on the shame is there beyond that, but it didn't help the matter either. For me, the shame often comes when people relapse, because we work hard, especially early in recovery, people work hard, and then it's hard to explain the power of addiction. It really is. The best way I can explain it is think Lord of the Rings, with the ring being the addiction. The more you're around it, the harder it is to part ways from it. The more you're around it, the more it destroys your life, destroys not just physically, but all the things you care about, they start slipping away, they stop mattering. And so when you slip up early on and relapse, this hurts a lot of people to say, a lot of people don't like hearing this. Relapse is actually a part of recovery for most people. Most. Not all, but most. It's, we learn stuff, but until we learn to apply it, typically happens. And it's getting up and going back in. And shame is one of those things that prevents or makes it extremely hard to go back in because we know what we did was wrong. We know that what we're doing is hurting ourselves. But the shame there, the feeling that there's no hope, the feeling that that's just who you're doomed to be, that's where you're meant to be, and that's how you're supposed to live, and that there's nothing better for you, maybe for other people, but not for you. That is shame right there at its unfortunate purest form. And those thoughts go through a lot of people's heads. Those thoughts went through my mind. If you would have talked to me 3 years ago, September 7th will be 3 years clean for me. So as for right now, 3 years ago. And you told me that I would be sitting right here, right now, doing what I'm doing, that I would be approaching 3 years clean and sober. I wouldn't believe you. If you told me I was sitting here, breathing, I don't think I would have believed you either. I might have believed you if you said I was in prison or jail breathing, though odds are I wouldn't have believed you on that one either. I honestly thought 3 years ago that I was running on a few more months, and that was about it. Being honest, it wasn't like I was suicidal by any means. It's not like I didn't want to keep breathing. I just didn't see room for change. I didn't see it possible to change. I thought that was the best I could be at that point. That I had opportunity earlier and I squandered it away, and that's all that remained. And that I was at the best point I was going to be at. Everything else was going to keep going downhill. That's where I thought at that point. So I was acting reckless. I was doing what I could because I felt like that's all I had. That shame. I didn't get help because I didn't think I didn't want to, what I thought would be a waste of other people's time. I made poor decisions because I didn't think I was going to be around to face the consequences. And I desperately wanted to drown away all negative thoughts, all fears, all pain. And the only thing I could think of at the time were my addictions. Those things would distract me and numb away the hurt, the anxiety, the suffering. They came at a great cost. But the shame kept me from getting help much sooner because I didn't think there was any help worth getting. It wasn't until a couple months later, which I've talked about before, and it's actually going to be another episode, and it's going to be on guilt or survivor's guilt to be more precise. It wasn't until the moment of loss, not of myself, not of a family member, not of an innocent stranger. It wasn't until the loss of someone else that I was close to in association to me. It wasn't until that moment that I woke up. And that even though I felt shame at that point, my, at the time, anger towards some individuals drove me past it. And when I was in treatment, I was able to address the shame. When I was in treatment, I was able to start to rewire my brain as far as how I approach life, how I see things, changing my attitude, changing my motivations, my drives. That was a very unlikely chance for me, but it happened. And that's how I was able to break away from shame. But I tell you what, it doesn't happen for many people. And then there's still some ways, and I've talked about this not too long ago, that shame still follows me in other areas. With PTSD, I talked about it with sexual assault, even though I know that I shouldn't feel that at all. It's still there. And it's something that I work on still. That's the benefit of a therapist. I'll tell you what. It doesn't matter if you're in an emergency situation. It doesn't matter if you think your life is going great. It doesn't matter if you have a mental health diagnosis or not. I strongly believe that seeing a therapist, at least on occasion, is something that would benefit everyone, regardless of your circumstance, because it's a professional, non-biased person that you're speaking with. So, and that's listening. Anyway, that's what I got on shame. Thank you for tuning in and listening. Tomorrow I will be jumping out of a plane, assuming that there's no rain. Otherwise, we'll be rescheduling or getting a refund, one of the two. Probably rescheduling. But thank you for tuning in. Like I said, this was brought to you by Big Andy Media. And I will see you again on Monday for another Daily Biscuit. Take care.